Well, we're here to talk about presenting a live NHL game, and to help us do that, executive producer of live events, Wanton Davis. How are you doing today, Wanton?
Great. How are you, Jesse?
I'm excellent. I apologize in advance to Carlyn and you and everybody watching. I have a tendency to ask really long questions, so here comes that long question.
We love it.
Um, when I was a kid, I never gave any thought to the presentation of the hockey game, right? My dad would bring me to the game, we'd sit in our seats, we'd get a hot dog, and all I knew was that song would play, at the beginning and ending of the period, and the lights would go down, and boom, there's a hockey game. And as I got older, I started paying more attention. I started noticing, the props, the sounds, the lights, as the ice crew, Bailey got introduced, etc. To the point where in 2012, when they won the Stanley Cup, I believe that having the Black Parade play before the game was almost as important as any of the players on the ice. So having said all that, I'm curious what your approach to 50% of a night's worth of entertainment is, given your job.
So I guess I would say, unlike you, when I was a kid, I always noticed and was always impacted by the environment of sporting events, and not just sporting events, but anything really. I've always noticed sort of what was behind it and how it felt. And that could be a sporting event, that could be a concert, that could even be from the ambiance of like a grocery store. I've always paid attention to the playlists and kind of the music curation, pretty much anywhere where I go. And down to details of like light fixtures and the sort of weight of different metals. And that's something that I've always noticed and always paid attention to. And it's always driven whether or not I not felt comfortable, but whether or not I wanted to be at a certain place. I think that, like, Starbucks, an example, a lot of people sell coffee. And I wouldn't even say Starbucks coffee is any better than any other coffee, but when you're in Starbucks, from the music curation to the colors and to how everything is sort of presented, makes you want to go and buy your coffee there. And so it's something I've always paid attention to. And as I've grown in my career and really developed my own point of view, it started becoming more apparent to me that sporting events could really be driven by the ambiance and by the environment in the world that is created around the event itself. And, the event itself is the meat, right? It's the meat and potatoes, and it always has been and always will be. And it's why people come. But yet, when you have a nice dinner, you might have meat and potatoes, but you also have like a little broccolini going on the side or a nice garnishment, something like that. And so that's kind of what I feel my role is to garnish and just to decorate the plate. You won't walk away full from the role, but you will hopefully like comment on, it looked nice, or, that was such a nice compliment.
Yeah.
Mm.
How do you want people to feel when fans are allowed again back inside Staples Center? How do you want people to feel when they see your show?
I want people to be blown away, and I want people to walk away wild, and I want it to be an event where people can post about. I want it to be social by design, where it's an event where, people want to show you that they were at a Kings game at the Staples Center, and people want to spread that message. And so I want it to be a message that is just starting, but will eventually touch a lot of people and ultimately encourage people to come on out to Kings games.
Hockey's in a weird spot, and honestly, I feel like it has been for 30 years almost, where you have all of these traditions, some of them official, some of them unofficial. You have a very clear, I want to shy away from the use of the word demographic, but it's the only word I can think of. But there's, whatever, I forget the name of the guy who does the good old hockey game, right, that plays during intermissions. There's a mood, but then at the same time, you want to expand that audience. You don't want to be stuck in the, 60s or 70s forever. We're in 2021 now. And so I find myself sitting there in Staples Center and Bruno Mars comes on and I'm, dancing to it because I love the song. But then another song will come on that I'm not familiar with and I can't help it. I have that urge to go like, well, that's not a song for a hockey game, but it's just because I don't recognize it, right? Like if you had
Mhm.
played the Bruno Mars for me 20 years ago, I wouldn't have known it, and I would have said, "Oh, that's not." But now I love it. I go, "Oh, of course, it makes perfect sense." So how do you how do you? It's a vague question, but I mean, you have an opportunity with no fans to not have to deal with that, but with the future of fans coming back, I mean, which world do you put the heavier foot in? Expanding the experience or paying homage to the past and the tradition?
I mean, I think they go hand in hand. I think everything evolves over time. No matter what it is, everything evolves over time, but yet everything is rooted from somewhere. And so I think you really have to respect and pay homage to where it's rooted, but yet, also be in the current times and evolve as society evolves, evolve as tech evolves, evolve as music changes. I won't say evolves because I don't think music evolves. Music just changes and becomes more popular and is circular, but you sort of have to live in the current times by not shunning what came before it. And I mean, even think about that on a team level where the current team is in the position that they're in because of, Luke and Wayne Gretzky and some of those guys sort of built the visibility and built the brand awareness to the point of where it is now. And so you pay homage to them, but yet you still evolve and it's a way to be creative in your own right. Like the current team isn't playing exactly how the team played 20 years ago. So I think it's just a natural evolution.
When you look at the elements you have right now, is there a favorite one of yours that stands out? Because fans haven't seen all the beauty that's in there this season. One of my favorites is the Baby Yoda and the Crazy Train song, and he's inside the ship flipping it and flipping it off, and it's so good and so hilarious. But do you have a favorite element right now that you can't wait for people to see?
I really like the fact that we're able to play with a few different elements right now. Um, One thing that excites me is the audio portion of it and the audio narrative. And so in thinking about it, I've tried to design it as though it was a soundtrack of a movie soundtrack. And you know how a movie soundtrack guides you along. There are
Yes.
certain scenes where they're more intense and you feel that and the music plays a huge role in that. There are certain scenes where, it dies down and you really need to hear the dialogue. So the audio portion of it and trying to map out the audio narrative is something that really excites me and something that will evolve over time as well. And it's gradually evolving. So that's something that just kind of makes me smile to see the evolution of that.
Love that.
We've had
Yes.
conversations with your predecessors. Sorry, Carlyn. And I am fascinated by that element that you just described because I don't know. Director seems too simplistic a word, but I mean that is the direct corollary right into the film world. You're directing the show, right? You're bringing in the elements and you're choosing the timing and everything. So I'm curious if you have inspirations, people that you've looked to, whether it's in film or music or even sports, that have inspired you to create your own sort of imprint on your job.
You know, Career wise, I would say I've always looked to P.T. Barnum as a source of inspiration.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Um, and I would say because I'm not the talent, and P.T. Barnum wasn't the talent.
Yeah.
Yet he found a way to bring the talent together and to encourage the talent to perform and to figure out a way to allow the talent to perform that gained attention and that made people stop and made people care and made people notice. And so he's somebody that I've always really tried to craft my approach after. It feels kind of random now that I say it, but
Oh, that's so cool. That is so cool. Jesse, I was just going to say before you jumped into that question that we're both in the building, so we both hear that narrative and that storytelling that you get to do within those home games. One of my favorite parts is when they're lining up to come out the tunnel too, and you can just hear bring them out, bring them out. Like I love that. Like it's just little added elements of things that we've been going to Kings games for so long that we haven't heard before. And it just kind of brings that extra spark of like, oh, we're getting ready for something. Like, so you do a really great job at kind of making us anticipate what's about to happen.
That makes me so happy to hear.
Yeah.
And as small of an element as that is, it's something that a lot of thought was put into, and it's something that I'm really happy that you noticed. So thank you for saying that.
Of course.
There was a moment in, I think it was the 2011 playoffs. I could be wrong. It might have been 2010, but you could tell there were a lot of parts of the live game experience that hadn't been perfected yet. And there was a moment late in the third period. I think it was a game 5 or game 6. I wish I could remember the specific game, but there was a moment where there's like a minute and a half left in the game. It was a close game. It was either tied or the Kings were down by 1. And there was a timeout or a stoppage in play or a commercial break or something. And the arena was silent. The fans weren't doing anything. There was no music playing. There was nothing happening on the Jumbotron. It was just dead. And I remember thinking in that moment, though I had been one of those people who might have grumbled under their breath, like, I didn't come here for a concert. I came here for a hockey game, blah, 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 But then in that moment, I realized, like, no, the crowd needs to be involved. We need to be, cheering or shouting or screaming or invested in the game. So I'm curious, just from your experience as a sports fan, what some of your favorite teams or moments or players have been, because I do think it's important for those people who are controlling the off-ice element of the show to recognize those moments when, the crowd needs to be engaged.
So I'll give you 2 examples, and it's funny because they're the same example.
All right.
But remember when Eric Gagne used to come out?
Yeah.
And when he came out, you felt it.
Mm-hmm.
And doors opened and his song came on and you felt it. And I think you get the same feeling from McKinley Jansen, where when he comes out, it's a moment and it's a buildup. And it's and actually if you look at Major League, I think Major League may have really had a big impact on that, because when he came out to Wild Thing, it was a big thing and it was a big moment and it became a signature moment for that character. But that sort of has carried over into and I don't know if Major League did it before the Dodgers if the movie did it before baseball, or if baseball did it before the movie. But I remember even watching that, feeling impacted and knowing that the moment was big. And so that's the thing I would go to automatically when you said that. And then and thinking the Chicago Bulls, that whole, cinematic, dramatic scene before Bulls games, it made you stop and it made you pay attention. And so those are a few sport inspirations.
I think those are perfect. I've forgotten all about Eric Gagne, but you're right. I can't remember the song that they played when he came out, but yeah.
I can't remember his song, but
it would pump you up. But yeah, Sirius would play before the Bulls games, and everybody, recognizes those notes. And obviously we referenced the Black Parade, and, you can't keep tapping that well over and over and over again, or it loses some importance. But we were going to talk later in this episode about picking specific songs for each player as they score a goal. I'm curious if you see a future where players' goal songs are similar to the Major League Baseball walk-up songs.
It's definitely a thought. It's definitely a thought in the back of my mind, and we have a list of some songs. I will say the biggest challenge we've run into so far is hockey moves so fast.
Yeah.
And half the time you don't really know who scored the goal. And so you're trying to not trigger the wrong song. So I think that's a work in progress, but I definitely think it is something that is on our radar, and hopefully we'll get there. And we've done it a couple times. Doughty has the Magic Stick as his song. And, been able to play that a couple times. But, so that's a work in progress.
Oh my goodness.
Producer Trev, by the way, chipped in with "Welcome to the Jungle" was the song for Eric.
Okay.
So there, yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Carrlyn.
I was gonna say, do you have any favorite songs that you just can't wait to blast in the arena? Songs in particular that just get you pumped up, that would get the team pumped up and the crowd eventually pumped up.
There's a whole list of songs.
There's too many. I know that was too broad.
Funny. Think about wanting to bring more of a contemporary infusion with music, but also thinking about wanting to bring these big sort of classic songs back, because those big classic songs are the songs that people can really rally around, and the songs that trigger certain emotions, so they make you excited. So yeah, there are tons of songs. I was just thinking the other day that I wanted to play this song that I loved a while ago, and I just think it would sound so great in the arena, and we haven't played it yet. But it's Crazy by Aerosmith. And I love that song. And it's such a big song that I think it would sound so amazing in the arena. So hopefully we'll play that soon.
Wow.
Well, I'd like to make one simple request when we do
Please.
get fans back in the building. Like, won't really work until then. But there's a gimmick, and I think the Kings probably stole it from Detroit or some other crowd, but where they play a song, get the audience singing it, and then drop out the audio so it's just the audience singing.
Mhm.
I personally love that. So more of that, please. And the Kiss Cam. Bring the Kiss Cam back. That's it. Those are my requests.
Done and
All right.
done.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Listen, thank you so much for joining us, Wanton. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Carlyn.
Of course.
And hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
All right. See you guys.